event. Both Anna and myself, so those of you who don't know Anna, she is on this call. Her name is Anuradha. Everybody calls her Anna. She is my partner. She's my life partner and business partner over here in BNI. And both of us literally were with our CEO, Mary, 48 hours before all of this started last Saturday. We were attending the BNI Advanced National Director Training together with Habibi as well, who is on this call, and the International Franchise Association Convention in Las Vegas. And we had a whole week with Mary and the whole team from the global BNI support. And it was fantastic. Little did we know that, upon landing back in Dubai, within a few hours, we're going to be faced with what we are faced with today. So let me give you a quick introduction to Mary. I have a few questions for Mary. She's going to walk us through her personal experiences, get some insights, and then, depending on time, there may be an opportunity for you also to ask Mary questions. So before becoming our global CEO, Mary Thompson was herself a franchise business owner. So right now she's the CEO of BNI, but as many of you probably know, BNI is a franchise. And she has experienced firsthand the realities, challenges, and opportunities that entrepreneurs like all of us face every day. Even earlier in a career before that, she served in the United States Marine Corps. And there, the values of resilience, discipline, and mission-focused leadership were deeply ingrained in Mary. These experiences as a Marine, a business owner, and now the CEO and leader of BNI Global gives Mary a unique perspective on leadership, community, and the power of networks, especially in terms of uncertainty. That's really what this is. For many of us, it's not the fear, because I think we are all relatively very, very safe in the countries that we are right now. But I think it's the uncertainty that creates the fear. Mary, I came across an article written by you in BizWorld titled Strategies. No one wins alone, not in the Marine Corps or the C-suite. And immediately, and I think that's when I messaged you, I thought to myself, what timing? This was published, I think, on 1st of March. And I saw this and I said, it'll be great to have you on this call. So we're truly honored to have you with us today because we're looking forward to hearing your insights on leading with resilience, lessons from the Marines to the community, and how the strength of our networks can help us support one another and grow stronger in times of uncertainty. So thank you so much for joining us, Mary. I really appreciate it that you've taken this time at very, very short notice to be here with us. Perhaps, you may just want to say a few words, and then I have a few questions for you, Mary, before we have the members ask any questions that they may have. Over to you, Mary.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be here, BJ and Anna. I very much appreciate it. And I want to say good afternoon, good evening to all of you. It is my honor to be here and have a conversation with you about how do you lead through times of uncertainty. And BJ touched on this, but in my time in the Marine Corps, I served under some extreme circumstances where I woke up to bomb alarms and to leading a platoon of 54 Marines in some very hairy and serious situations where every decision you made was very important and had lifelong ramifications to it. And so I'm grateful to have this opportunity to have a conversation with all of you. And I commend all of you for being here, for doing something, for taking action, for figuring out a way to connect as you go through this time, which we all should know and understand are not the easiest of times. Leaders are not made in the easiest of times. They are made in the tough times. I always like that saying that says, a good sailor is not made in calm seas. And this is about being a good sailor.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mary. So let me start off by, my first question to you, Mary, because you've led teams both in the Marine Corps and in business. When uncertainty arises, like we're facing right now, and whether that's out in the field or in the marketplace, What are the first leadership principles you instinctively fall back on?
So I did get some great leadership in my Marine Corps days. There's 11 Marine Corps leadership principles that they teach all leaders. And I always tell everybody, you do not need a title to be a leader. You need to have the heart to want to inspire and serve others to be a leader. And so even within your organization, you should make sure everyone understands they have the opportunity to lead, and it's just inspiring and serving others. And a couple of things the Marine Corps taught that I have used over the last 40 years that have helped me a lot is one is that the fear of facing your fears is harder than the fear itself. And Marines taught that you actually run to fear. When you face your fears and you run towards those fears actually go away. And it really ties to having a bias for action. And that bias for action, there was a really interesting study done by a professor at MIT on fear. And, BJ, you use the word uncertainty. Uncertainty and fear really go hand in hand for most human beings because the unknown is what creates the fear. But there's a study done on multitasking. And what it showed is that human beings, we really cannot multitask. We think we can, but we can't. And that inside of our brain, we have the core of our brain. It's often referred to as the reptilian brain, which is the part of the brain that reacts. For instance, if you were walking through a door and you saw a snake, it would be how you react when you see that. That is that core action. And when you are acting, you don't have time to feel fear. And so the bias towards action is very important. The things you're doing as leader and getting others to act, like the most important thing you can do is keep your businesses open, keep people busy doing, have them, put them acting, because when they're acting, they're not thinking about what may provide some fear for them. And then there are a couple other things that Marine Corps teaches is make sound and timely decisions. When you make no decision, that really is a decision. And so take time to make those decisions. And oftentimes the decision is tied to communications. The last thing I will say is when it's dark, people can't see clearly. And so they need to understand where you are. And my dad taught me this. He called it whistling in the dark. And it is how you communicate with your people through times when it's dark. And it means having a lot of conversation with them. Sometimes don't assume that they know that you're there just because you're standing there. They need to hear you. They need to hear you put things in perspective and talk about, we're going to go do this because of this and this and this. What we do in our business, at BNI, we say our vision is to change the way the world does business. And our mission is very clear to grow our members' businesses through structured meetings and structured training. That's it. Nothing less, nothing more. We're very clear in that. In your business, you have the same thing, is how do you grow that business and how do you keep that focus and help others keep that focus? Because that bias towards action and that communicating that the leader does creates this space that people want to be part of. And when someone is enrolled, engaged, and believes, they believe two things. They believe that tomorrow can be bigger than today, and they understand how they fit in. So think about with where you are, how are you communicating to everybody about how tomorrow can be bigger than today, how what you're doing is making a difference, and how that person can do something to fit in, because while they're busy doing something, they're not worried about the things that uncertainty and fear may bring them.
Wow. Wow. And, all of us, so it's not just within the BNI, everybody over here is leading teams, running businesses, even at home, right? Families and other communities out there. So I think this can be applied absolutely everywhere.
Everywhere.
When I read that article that I just mentioned, one of the themes that you spoke about, you wrote about, was the importance of leaning on your network. And especially in times of uncertainty like this, people join BNI, of course, for business, for referrals. But now that we're part of this network, it's more than a network, it's a community. So in times of uncertainty, how can entrepreneurs and professionals best activate their communities rather than trying to face challenges alone? What are the things you can share, perhaps, where we can actually lean on each other to support each other?
Yeah, it's interesting, BJ. I think if BNI was only just about referrals and business, we wouldn't be the size we are right now. We would not have 360,000 members across the globe. We would not have 41 years, almost 42 years now, of year-over-year growth every single year through crisis, through COVID, to grow every single. I believe that we grow because we are more than that. We are a community of people who look after one another. I believe it's this altruistic approach combined with this business approach that really makes us who we are. You know, our value of givers gain, our value of building relationships. Those two values in particular really tie to things like this. And what happens when all of you are leaders, and you probably are what I would call a very high D, means you have very high dominance. You push to get things done. That's why you're in charge. That's why you're doing things. People with the high D dominance in them, they're not likely to ask for help or lean in to their networks when things are tough. They think that they need to do it by themselves. And what took me, I think it took being in a situation once where we had, I was overseas. We had 2 helicopters that went down. It was very stressful time, a lot of loss of life. And I was the officer in charge. And I thought that my job was to have all the answers and to fix everything. What I found was when it got really, really stressful, there was no way I could have all the answers. There was no way that I could do everything. So I brought my team together and I said, who knows how to do this? And who knows how to do this? And who can go over to this place and set up a perimeter here? And who can? And when we started working together as a team, then all of a sudden we got much better. And I was all of 27 at the time. It was a very big lesson for me that the wisest leaders, the most effective leaders, bring their network together and say, who can do what? And sometimes it starts with our giver's gain. I can do this. When I was a child, there was a story my grandmother always told me called Stone Soup. I don't know if it's ever been shared, how far wide it was shared, but a man came into town, everyone was hungry, and everyone was trying to figure out how they were going to eat. And he brought these 3 rocks and he put them in a pot of boiling water and started boiling the water and said, I'm going to make this amazing meal. I invite you to come join me. And one guy said, I can come and I have carrots. And another guy said, I can come and I have onions. And another person said, one lady said, I can come and I can bring the bread. And there was this amazing feast but he started with this giver's gain, like I have this water and these 3 stones, and we're going to make stone soup. I think when you lean in to networks, start with the giver's gain. I have this. I can bring us together for this. What can you bring and do? So to lean in on that and to know as a leader, the best leaders, they look for who can bring what to the table so that they can be a better leader. And I think in these times, especially under stress, what happens is we get very much like, okay, I'm gonna be very stern and do this right here, and I'm not going to look outside of where I am. This is the time you most need to do that. This is the time I encourage you to. And as you do that, I want you to separate. It's really 2 things you're thinking about: leading and managing, and both are important. So on leading's all about the people. Are your people being looked after? Do you care about their welfare? I mean, genuinely care about their welfare. Are you asking them? That's part of building relationships. And that's part of where I think giver's gain really leans in. And then you do have to manage. You have to manage things and resources. And so, if business is slowing, you have to think about, do I cut fat or muscle? And look at your business between fat and muscle. So fat are things that really doesn't grow your business, doesn't help keep your business healthy. When I was in the plumbing business and we had a really tough time, fat was people running their trucks and leaving them on because it was cold outside and they didn't want to get into a cold truck. So we had to have the discipline of turning off the truck. But muscle was marketing dollars spent to grow the business. And so, and people fall in the muscle side, in my opinion. And so I encourage you to think about how am I leading my group, my teams, my community, my family, from the people side, inspiring and serving them through the giver's gain and bringing them together and figuring out who can bring what. And then how can I manage my business, separating out where am I where do I have fat that I don't need and I should cut? And where do I need to protect the muscle and grow the muscle? And on almost every instance, any business that goes through that exercise on the managing side, they come out stronger and better. When things start to improve, the business grows faster.
You know, we pivoted online literally the moment this happened. So this started Saturday last week. We had a leadership meeting on the Monday morning, and we made a decision with everybody that we're going to pivot online. And luckily, you know, in BNI, having the experience of the pandemic 6 years ago, and it was exactly 6 years ago, this very same thing happened. So we have the tools, you know, we have the experience with a few of our members, we have the knowledge. If I look back those 6 years, and if I look today, we've grown tremendously in those last 6 years. And if I look at the total membership that we have today, and I'm sure this will apply not only to the UAE, but also the other neighboring countries that we have around us. I calculated that about 70% of our members that we have today, and I would easily say probably 70% of the members on this call were not there during that time. So, you know, one of the things we did was we got people to share the stories from 6 years ago, how we handled that, you know, 18 months we continued online and how we did that and how everybody came together. So that's great. So we have that playbook. So in some way, this kind of, you know, is similar to that, but in other ways, that was a global phenomenon, right? This is not necessarily global. It's more like regional, you could say. Are there any other practical tips that you could think of that we could employ within our chapters, within our networks to strengthen, you know, our businesses and to support each other? I'm looking at it specifically in terms of, you know, day-to-day or weekly habits that we should look at, how all of our chapters can sort of start looking at things, you know, have a tangible takeaway from this, where they can say, you know what, yeah, let's do this tomorrow. And they can actually deploy that right away. Any ideas of
Yes,
that?
I do have a few thoughts. One will sound a little self-serving coming from me, but promise you it's not. This is the time that you should be inviting people into your chapter, because there are a lot of people out there that are scared. And if you look at the history of BNI, BNI grows when things are uncertain, because people are looking for certainty. They're looking to belong and grow together with a group for something that's bigger than themselves. And so I encourage you, this is the time to reach out to people outside your BNI network and say, just come visit us. And that will help. It helps them and it helps you, and it's part of the giver's gain. So I highly encourage that. Secondly, you've got this group of people already who know one another and have built trust. And there are some ways you can communicate that are going to sound simple, and they are simple, but sometimes simple is the best way to do something. And I'm sure all of your chapters, like my chapter, I'm a chapter member, and we have a WhatsApp group that we talk to one another. And there was something, we had nothing like what you're going through, but we had a big weather event that happened here. And so we started talking to one another. And what we did is, if you said at 4:30 every afternoon, we're going to share the best part of our day and one idea that we did today that helped improve our business. You just go on to the WhatsApp and say, the best part of my day was I had, a cup of coffee overlooking my balcony and the sun rose up and I was grateful for the sun rising up. And I just figured out that there is this new place I can go to using AI to help me build this for my business. And I started using it today. And, remember when I said early on, when things are uncertain, one of the things leaders have to do is they have to over communicate. One of the things Marine Corps taught was we used to have to do this course. There was a training course called the ropes course where you had to negotiate a piece of water, and you had one person who was a leader, and you had to tell everybody, take this board and do it here and step on this board. And you had to get everyone across the water, all your team, all safely on the other side. And the first time you do it, you think, I'm brilliant. Look at me. I got everyone over to the other side. Well, after you finish it, they say, okay, now we're going to blindfold everybody. Now you have to get everybody to the other side. And even though they've done it once, they're in the dark. Literally, they're in the dark. And it takes 10 times more communication to get them to the other side. So right now, because of what your region is going through and the stress of your region and the stress that's happening within your organizations, everyone is blindfolded. So you have to do 10 times more communication. So I would encourage you and be the leader in your group and even in your community and in your family. Maybe you do a text message like that, a group message to your family and one to your business group. I would encourage you to do that. And it's very simple, but you'd be stunned how effective it is. I have 3 groups I do that with regularly, and I learn something every single week from something that somebody shared that sounded really simple that I didn't know how to do it. Or just hearing someone say, this was the best part of my day. And then it reminded me, you know what, I can do that too. I can spend a moment to do that. So that would be one side. And then the second thing that I think, so first is bring people into your chapters. They need BNI right now. This is a great way to do it. 2, get your group together and get a cadence and it should be an everyday cadence at a time that makes sense when your business might be, toward the end of the day, best part of my day, and a simple idea that I can do. I used to do that across our president's groups in my last company. And it was a big part of why we grew and how we grew. And then the third part is make sure, as a lifelong learner, make sure that you're reading everything you can, because your job as a leader is to put things in perspective. And I remember when the great global financial crisis was happening, nobody knew what to expect, or when COVID was happening, to put it in perspective and say, this is what's happening right now. So as a leader, your job is to understand the current situation and state it factually by also helping people understand that how tomorrow can be bigger and how they get to fit into it. Those would be my 3 thoughts on that.
Wow. Yeah, I had I was in a meeting yesterday and a couple of leaders were sharing how they've already decided that they're going to have a daily sort of a huddle, we're going to call it huddle, where they've fixed a time and they're going to get together. And it's really just catching up, checking on each other throughout the day. Some things could have happened or, some ideas could have come. So it's a place where that you can be together and then rather than spiral into the whole negativity out there when you watch the media and the news and everything else, this is the other thing. This is the opposite, right? Where you actually feed the right energy to each other, support ground, and if you need to vent out, and then that's the place you can do so. But you do that on a daily basis. The value is the cadence, like you said, making sure that you do it every single day at the same time, and everybody knows that this is a safe place that I can go. And it's not having a large group, it's about having a small, intimate group that you can actually do this with. I'm gonna, I can see the chat, but I've got a lot of questions coming up here. I've got Jamil over here asking, what were you saying about the military again? Something about the fear being more daunting than the task itself. If you just want to,
I just put it in the chat. The fear of facing your fears is harder to overcome than the fear itself. So if you think about that, the fear of facing your fears is harder than the fear. And the other thing the Marine Corps said is if you run towards your fear, it actually runs away. Yeah. So run towards your fear. There's all kinds of studies done about they've been done on really great people. And what they find is they work outside their comfort zone every single day. And that working outside your comfort zone is nothing less and nothing more than facing your fears. And so, yeah.
Look, members, if you got any questions for Mary, this may be a good time. We may have about 10 minutes or so. So do type away your questions. I know a few of you had your hands up. So I've got Manoj from Bahrain.
I saw that.
Yeah, you saw that. How did you manage your family in through the war times when you were in the Marine Corps? Mary, would you like to share that? And you were very young
Yes,
at the
time.
I would.
Well, Manoj, I would start with this. It was hard. I never want to make anything sound. The important things in life are not easy. I've never found any important thing in my life that is easy to do. The weak things are easy to do. The important things are hard to do. So it was hard. But one was making sure I've always said there are three things that, you give your children that no one can take away from them: unconditional love, a well-traveled life, and a good education. So we made sure that our children clearly understood where we stood. They clearly understood they were loved, and they knew their why. They understood their mission. So in my family, and my father brought me up this way, he said, there's a phrase in Latin that's called noblesse oblige, which means nobility obliges you. And most people don't understand what it means. What it means is, to people who have been given things, whether it's you're given a roof over your head, or food in your stomach, or, because as a child, I lived in India and I saw great poverty, and then I served in the military and saw, people who really were suffering. I've been given a lot, so therefore there's a lot expected of me. So we made sure part of managing our family was helping them see it's not just about them, it's about the world. It's about how it's that giver's gain. It's about how we give. And when you're busy giving and looking out for the world, you're thinking less about what's happening to you. And then is all strong leaders need to do. My husband and I were very aligned. So, and I tell people when they get married, there's only three ways that you live in a marriage. And if you think about this is the same as a partnership. You can face each other and you see each other really well, but you don't see the world. You can be back to back where you see the world, but you don't see each other. Or you can stand side by side, holding hands, looking in the same direction and walking in the same direction. And so we made sure that we were looking in the same direction and walking in the same direction, because there were times I was off doing something and my husband was there. And there were times he was off doing something and I was there. And children need to know that their leaders are aligned, and your team needs to know that there's alignment. And that's why communicating more regularly and doing some of the things we talked about helps.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sorry.
I saw Gurmeet said, how do you convince family members things are normal while you're anxious yourself? I don't think you have to convince them that it's normal. I think so. There's negativity, there's false positivity, and then there's being positive. One of our values is being positive, and I think we don't understand fully what that means. So negativity is when you say everything's terrible, and I'm scared, and leaders, we don't, like when you ask about your family, you don't have the luxury of telling your family, I'm scared to death. And as a leader, you don't have that luxury, and you shouldn't. That's negativity. Or I don't know how we're ever going to get through this. That doesn't work. False positivity is to be in the situation you're in now and say, everything's okay. Everything's not okay. It's all right to say, here's where we are. Here is what is happening. Now let's talk about how do we make tomorrow bigger and better? And what does it look like? What is your part? How can you help participate and be part of that? And this is small, but I think it's a good example. When COVID hit, we were all afraid. I don't know how afraid you were, but there was a lot of fear. I felt a lot of fear. And my children were young adults at the time. And what we said was, you know what? And we couldn't find masks anywhere because there was no place to find masks. So we said, we're going to come together as a family and we're going to make masks. And we're going to give them to everybody in the community we can find, because no one could find any masks. And believe me, they were ugly masks. We were very bad at making masks. But we did that because now they were doing something and they could see that was helping something in the future and how they were part of it. So I would encourage you, it's okay to say the tough things as long as you can show them how they get to be part of making tomorrow better.
Thank you, Mary. I've got Wendy. She's asking, she's a master trainer, by the way. And she was my right hand when we had the pandemic. We launched a whole series of support sessions 6 years ago. Wendy's asking, in BNI, we don't talk about politics or religion or sex. And what can our presidents do or say to demonstrate that they care during this uncertainty? So we're trying to keep that positivity at chapter meetings, especially during the open networking and all of that, but without going into politics. Any tips on that?
Absolutely. And BJ, you probably heard me say this before, and some of you have heard me speak before, have heard me say this before. It's not the politicians that will bring the world together. It is the business people. And if I were a president of chapter, I'd say exactly that. It's not our politicians that will bring the world together. It is the business people, business people who want to connect across the street, across town, across the province, across the country, across the globe. And that is what we're here to do, is connect. And if we use our values and we live by our values and we continue to grow this community, we will change the way the world does business, and that will change the world. And that is how I would say it. And that's what I love that you asked that question, Wendy, because there's a way to talk about what we do. And, interestingly enough, my husband is an elected politician, and campaigning is a really hard, terrible thing to do. What we learned early on is we never talk about what we don't agree with. We don't talk about this person over here what we talk about is this is what we are going to do. This is how we fit in. This is what we can do. So I hope that gives you something that you can share with your presidents.
Yeah, absolutely. Deepa is asking, as a wellness coach and a Reiki master healer, she would love to contribute to the BNI community during this time. How can you best support members with your skills and services? Deepa, we are launching something called BNI UAE Operation Resilience, and we're going to put together a list of members who can offer their professional services across the board in so many different ways that the community needs. You will be on that list. Somebody from the team will reach out to you in the next couple of days, and we will be hosting sessions. So Deepa, thank you so much for offering yourself. Really, really appreciate and value that. We got Sohail over here asking, what is the right balance between facing reality and moving on with normal life as you've faced this many times? What is your way of doing this?
So remember I talked about the bias toward action. Anytime you can be acting and doing, part of acting and doing is living your everyday life to the best of the abilities that the situation allows for. So Marine Corps taught us a lot about, and having been in war crisis situations, some of the most important things I did was brush my teeth, wash my face, put my uniform on, and make sure that I am and look put together, which is everyday living. And there were times when it was, no showers, no food. We were waiting for something to get dropped, but taking a minute to find a way to brush my teeth and wash my face was very important in keeping in that action of staying disciplined. So what I would recommend is, think about your everyday disciplines that make for a better life. Keep those as much as you can, as much as the situation allows you to, and don't let people tell you that you can't, because you can. So what happens when we get stressed is we drop our habits. We drop the things that keep us healthy. And I don't just mean health in many ways, healthy physically. And so make sure you're following those things that keep your world healthy, keep in order, that keeps your house in order, that keeps your business in order. The most resilient people and the most resilient businesses, even through stressful times, they maniacally protect their habits. So maybe even make a list of your habits. And are there any that you've accidentally dropped that because you're telling yourself the stress is making you drop them, or you're telling yourself you can't do it?
I think we got time for maybe a couple more and then we'll wrap up. So I got Seema asking, during crisis, what signals tell you that your team's resilience is starting to break? What do you do in that moment as a leader?
So I kind of touched on it just a moment ago in this respect. When someone's resilience is breaking, you see it in a loss of habits. When someone looks in disarray, and I'm not just talking physically, but like how they're doing their job, you'll start to see it fray there. And what they almost always, when they're struggling with the resilience, is because they somehow they've lost the vision that tomorrow can be better. So take time and sit down and tell them that they need to hear it, and give them examples. And they don't have to be big, giant examples. Like tomorrow, we're going to sit and have coffee together, and we're gonna sit and we're gonna talk about this on the business. Give them a chance to have and feel something normal that starts to build their resilience up. And so what I look for is people's whose normal habits and how they work start deconstructing.
So there are quite a few other questions, but I think in the interest of time, and I think everything so far has been so invaluable. Asan Raza is asking a question, and I have the same question that I had to close this particular session with Mary. If there's one mindset shift or leadership habit that you believe all of us should embrace during times of uncertainty, what would that be?
Probably one of my biggest lessons in leadership is that while I am the leader and there are things that I must do, I do not need to do them all by myself. I have a network of people. I have within BNI, within my family, within my community that I can and should lean on and rely on. That was the biggest thing for me. I thought I had to do everything myself. I thought I was the only one that could I had to take this heavy lift and make it all happen. But my job is to multiply myself. And I can't multiply myself by myself. I can only multiply myself by bringing people on. And the most powerful phrase that any leader has is, I need your help. It's the most powerful thing you can say. I need your help. Can you help me with this? People, we as humans, we are actually wired to help one another. We're wired to come into communities and help one another. When you ask for it, it unlocks something in people that makes them, I've never been disappointed when I've asked somebody for help, never. It unlocks something in them and it brings them closer and you get more done. So how do you multiply yourself? You start with the sentence, I need your help.
And, without sounding sexist, I think this applies more to men than women. I think as men, we shy away from asking for help. But we absolutely need to gain the courage to ask, that habit of asking help. Thank you so much, Mary. I see our Relations Director from Oman, Salim, has his hand up. I know many others have his hand up. But Salim, I'm going to ask you to mute yourself and ask a question.
Thank you very much, Vijay, for hosting this session. And I'm with the chapter members here. I think one of our members would like to ask a question. Yeah. Dr. Afsa? Yeah.
Hello, good evening and a very good morning to all of you all across the world. It's a great opportunity for us. And thank you for letting us go. Our chapter meeting just concluded. And I would just like to ask one small question in this crisis situation, how an entrepreneur takes up this leadership and then executes in a way that their employees also become a part of their journey.
So, if you're wanting to bring your team closer so that they're enrolled, what you're saying as part of the journey means that they're enrolled in what you're doing. Make sure you're very clear about what your business does that is above and beyond your business. And I'll give you an example. I don't know what your business is, but I'm a licensed plumber and I was in the home services and plumbing business. And you think, a plumber, they fixed my plumbing, but that's not really what a plumber does. A plumber keeps the world safe and hygienically safe. Because if you don't have good plumbing, people get dysentery and they get sick. And so when I would talk to my plumbers, I would explain to them, like, you protect the health and safety of a nation, the health and safety of your community. And when they were having to go out during COVID and they were having to go into people's homes, I said, I want you to know what you're doing is keeping people healthy and safe. It's so important. And so by their understanding how they fit in and why that was important, is something more than just, I'm fixing a leak. I'm actually keeping people healthy and safe. Take your business and just like at BNI, we want to change the way the world does business. What is the ultimate that your business does? Make sure everybody knows it, understands it, and show them how they're an important part of that. That would be my thought on that.
Thank you, Mary, so much for this. I don't think we have time for anything else. I know you had a hard stop at, I believe it's 10 o'clock your time in the morning, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I'm gonna have you the last words, and if you got any questions for us, because we got a couple more minutes, and then we'll wrap it up from there.
Well, BJ, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me, allowing me to be part of this conversation. You are a remarkable leader. I love how you're bringing people together and thinking about how to communicate more than even normal. And so for you and Anna, I give you my heartfelt appreciation and admiration. And I'm going to leave with this thought. You said a word that's probably the most important word of everything we said here today, and that was courage. And courage is not about not being afraid. Courage is not about doing the easy thing. Courage is about being brave enough to have conversations that matter. Courage is continuing on and keeping routines and bringing people along with you and boldly bringing people along with you. Courage is, in spite of the stress, doing the things you do that will grow you and your community, your family. That's courage. And I think a life without courage is not the life any of us want to lead. And so I commend all of you, and I encourage you to continue to practice your courage, because it's like a muscle, like anything else. The more you practice it, the stronger it will get. And I want you to know, I'm here to serve all of you and help you as you continue to grow your businesses through good times and bad.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Really appreciate it. It is exactly 6 o'clock for us over here, 5 o'clock in the other Gulf countries, and 10 o'clock in the morning for you. Just before you leave, I'm going to ask Suresh to switch off the spotlight so you can have everybody on screen. And I know you want to take a few screenshots. So you may want to remove spotlights on both Mary and myself, and they'll be part of the photos. Here we go. So guys, we're going to take a couple of screenshots. We have close to 200 people today on this call. Once again, Mary, thank you so much. If you want to mute yourselves, I think there's some people who might have the speakers on. So let's have a big smile. Let's take some shots. Suresh, whenever you say we're good.
Go, sir. Mary, over to you.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Guys, have a great evening. Stay safe. And I look forward to seeing many of you at chapter meetings later in the course of this week. Next week, I know many of us are off because of Eid. So if I don't get a chance to see you or speak to you before Eid, wishing you Ramadan Kareem, Eid Mubarak in advance, and look forward to seeing all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vijay and Mary. Really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Really
you.
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm very
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. It was a great meeting. Thanks for your time and everything.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, this is Ram from Alpha Global, Bahrain.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a safe evening. Stay safe.
See you guys. We're going to switch off now.
See you, Vijay.
Hey, see you. Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks.